Testing, testing. I can hear my streaming in Restream. Testing again, testing. Testing one more, testing one more. We're about to start. Everybody, and we're about to start our event. We are 4 minutes away for starting our event, but For those that are joining on our um, social media platforms, that includes YouTube, LinkedIn, and also Facebook, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about physician healthcare innovators that are leading teams. You can make the argument that somewhat, somewhere in your career, you're always been leading teams. Either you're leading the patient care team in the hospital, clinic, office, or even anyone is a leader on its own. So today we're gonna shed some lights in some concepts that I think are gonna be very useful for all of you. We're gonna start by uh, going back on a few of the concepts we shared last week when we were focusing on mental fitness and positive intelligence for individuals. And as we elaborate those concepts and see a practical applications, we're gonna see how those can be implemented to turn your team for a high performance team and explore possibilities of what they can accomplish. The truth of the matter is that the status quo in healthcare has so many resistance to change and to implement things that, if you think about it as we go along with the presentation, should be actually the normal. And rather, instead, we talk about how we can disrupt the status quo by changing it with some of these techniques. We're going to start soon sharing some of the concept, but I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to check our website. We have multiple resources that will help individual, but also teams to improve their performance with mental fitness and positive intelligence. We're going to start in about a few seconds, but I'm going to start introducing myself again. But in the meantime, remember, a doctor's journey is a coaching platform for individual and small teams that are interested on improving performance through mental fitness and positive intelligence. We tackle and implement different resources, some of which I'm going to share today. And I'm hoping that you get a lot of value from this presentation and some of the tools that they're going to share today. So welcome everybody. My name is Miguel Villagra. I'm the founder of A Doctor's Journey. That is a coaching platform that helps physicians, healthcare entrepreneurs improve their performance for themselves and their team through mental fitness and positive intelligence. We have different resources from mindset change, or I will describe mind shift, to also tactics that you can implement or strategies you can implement at your individual level and also at the team levels. And today we're going to focus on team, although we're going to piggyback on a few concepts that are crucial also for the individual level. I'm internal medicine by training. I am a physician entrepreneurs. I have done real estate. I am advisor of some digital health companies that are improving and disrupted the market in healthcare, changing the status quo and improving the pandemia of burnout and moral injury among physicians and healthcare entrepreneurs. And the reality is that as I reflect on my journey, there are multiple pivot times on my time on my timeline where I have to make changes. And today I'm hoping that I will deliver a valuable concept that help you reflect on your journey and on the opportunities. I believe there's always opportunity for growth and improvement. And positive intelligence has been one of the most powerful tools that I've been able to implement in my life, in my career, in my business, even in my family. And now I share that with some of my coaching clients or teams. And And the reality is that if you think about it, there's always opportunity for growth and improvement. But sometimes I also you need to stop for a moment and see how you can get the clarity to make the best decision for you and your team. And today, that's precisely what we're going to talk about, how we can create a resilient and thriving team in healthcare among all the things that goes against us in this inefficient market where we deploy care to patients the best way we possible can, but we're faced with uh, burnout, moral injury, turnover of staff, multitude of relationship with payer sources, very limited profitability margins, and so on and so forth. Now, success is not the result of a spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire. And I'm hoping today that I can deliver at least that, have that level of awareness, but also that curiosity that ignites, so to speak, that can be the catalysm for massive change for you and your team. So I want you to reflect first for those that are leading teams and they are a leader on themselves just by being a healthcare worker. How do you see yourself on your team as a thriving team and high performance? How can change? What changes can you make to take your team to the next level? What is working, but also what is not working? And sometimes when you have events like these, um, it's not just about sharing concept, it's about spending some time seeing where you are on your journey and what opportunities are ahead of you. Now, last week we were talking about this concept of the professional business versus life paradox. And we see both your profession and your business, your entrepreneur side of life, so to speak, in contradiction sometimes with your life, your well-being, etc. It seems sometimes like opposite forces, one fighting to each other. We want to be successful, but we also want to strive for quality of life. But oftentimes we ignore these in order to focus on the other one. And I'm here to tell you that that doesn't have to be the case. Yes, success and entrepreneurship is hard. You need to be nimble, ready to change, ready to pivot. You're dealing with uncertainty, long hours at times, and sometimes the pain of discipline. But the more you think about it and you reflect upon the opportunities that you have to define what your purpose is, what your why is for you personally and for your business, and hopefully there is alignment among both, it makes things easier. It reduces the friction that you might be going through. Because fulfillment and happiness, on the flip side, sometimes we see it as a pleasure of balance and contentment and complacency without ambition. And that is going to be something that I see a lot. Physicians are procrastinated on what they want to do. They know that something is not working, something is not right, and yet we don't do anything about it. We're rooted into our physician persona or W-2 incomes and things like that. And we just don't strive for making any changes that can make our life better. And I'm here to tell you that opportunities are unlimited. And we're going through this massive change, this technology advancement. I'm very passionate about artificial intelligence and how it can leverage our time and focus on the things that matter the most for our life, for our business, and even for our career, for those practicing medicine. Last week, we also went through the 5 steps to implement a sustainable mental fitness framework for any physician or healthcare entrepreneur. We went from defining self awareness, be aware of your positive intelligence score, be aware of your most common saboteurs or your inner critics that we all have since childhood. It's just a matter of how loud they are and how they can bias the way you see things, and the decisions you make. And at the very least, we talk about you can be aware of these through a very simple evidence-based test that you can take for free, complimentary, and know what are your mental fitness score and what are your top saboteurs. And by building self-awareness is the first step through a massive transformation and change. The second thing is we talk about how through build a self-command where you can actually command your mind to focus on the things that matter the most and numb all the noise around us. We are surrounded for noise all the time. And it's just not about social media. We have multiple disruptors, thousands of emails, newsletters, subscriptions, podcasts, etc. And I'm all for it. I love it. But sometimes practice deliberate subtraction and remove the things that don't matter. It requires some level of insightfulness, wisdom, and clarity about where you're heading to. What is your vision and your goal? So we talk about through some minimal exercise that can be as short as 30 minutes, as long as 2 minutes through the day, at least two, 3 times a day. Think on terms of your mental fitness pill that can get you in the best positive mindset and emotionality to decide and face all your everyday challenges. Because what you want at the end is to get to this sage perspective. We all have this inner wisdom. Um, and it's rooted inside of our mind and connected to our subconscious mind. The question is how we can invoke it at will at a given time or even by command when you need it the most. So that will put you in a situation of reflection, in a situation where this is not about reactivity. It's about how to learn to respond the best way possible when you're faced with challenges in your life. Because ultimately, this is very actionable. This is not just theory. This is not just about things that are floating in the air. This will let you to decide and set your priorities. We talk about the 80-20 rules. The Pareto principle has been a massive disruptor of my life and career and helped me balance my life with the things that matter the most. Because the idea here is how you can detect the 20% of tasks, the 20% of things that you or your team needs to do to accomplish the 80% of your results. Where are you? Are you doing that 20% or you're just focused on the 80% that will never move the needle? But you need to get to this point of winner wisdom and clarity so you know what is the best decision for you and your team. And I will share some tools that can be useful for that. And finally, we talk about the fifth step to implement sustainable mental fitness practice for you and your team, and that's the sense of community, right? How you can leverage mentorship. I personally am an advocate for coach. I have a coach for many, many years, has been a massive change and helper identifying my blind spots, the things that I don't know and I need to learn, and somewhat having this um, alternative perspective that can help you see reality. Because if you think about it, reality has multiple perspectives. It's just a matter of why you want to focus on for what's going on. We want to build not transactional, which is the common norm, but rather transformational relationship with people that nurture you, but also hold you accountable for the things that you're planning on doing. So that's precisely what we focus on at the doctor's journey. We want to transform leadership through coaching in positive intelligence. We want healthcare innovator, physicians, entrepreneurs to be able to align and fulfill their business, their career, their profession with their personal life and priorities. Full balance and integration. And I think that that is possible. And it's not possible years from now. It is possible now, at least to spark the change towards something that can compound over time and drastically change the way you see things for you, your life, or your team. And also, who doesn't want to have a resilient, cohesive, and high performing teams, right? So, and this is precisely what we're going to focus on today. Now, the reality out there is that Healthcare is a high stake, high stress environment. We're faced with the need for changes. We are faced with the need to remain nimble and adapt to the current healthcare environment, from payer sources, insurance relationship, malpractice changes, efficiency, waste, productivity, and so on and so forth. So, if you think about it, considering this high stake, high stress environment, you need to be in the best state of mind, the best resilient, which is one of the things that I've focused through my life as a coach over the past few years, how I can make my battery to build last and remain charged longer and recharge faster, and how I can be in this state of peak flow that allow me to unlock the best degree of creativity. And the ultimate recipe for productivity is precisely that, when you use the best of your time for doing the things that matter the most, and you can see how you can accomplish things that you truly believe that that was not possible before. If you ask me 4 years ago, whether I was going to be founding this amazing coaching program at the Doctor's Journey, be advising digital health companies, some of which I'm also an angel investors, and I growing, compounding my money with multiple opportunities, but at the same time fixing the healthcare system that is due for a renewal and upgrade for a long, long time, I will say no. But definitely, this is a good example of the things that you can definitely also accomplish on you and your life and your team. You want to be in this state of mind where you have a clear decision making under pressure, because the stakes are high and the stress is high, to creativity or thinking out of the box to solve complex problems, and positive intelligence can get you to that level of approach on the challenge and the problems that you're faced with, and a sustainable motivation for long-term success, because ultimately what you want is build something that is for the long run, right? Oftentimes, I interact and I coach physician entrepreneurs that they build their businesses, but they don't build the businesses around their lifestyle. And they feel in this situation where, as they grow, their quality of life sometimes decrease. And I was reading this paper recently that was very interesting and fascinated about the incidence of burnout among digital health entrepreneurs. And I would say, for me, unsurprisingly, the incidency of burnout was pretty much the same of the incidence of burnout in healthcare work in the United States. So that's something to reflect upon, because I have seen entrepreneurs going from being burned out practicing medicine to be burned out working on their businesses. And that's something that I definitely don't deserve to you to go through. Um, I want you to reflect on the cost of inaction again, because without mental fitness, burnout, decision fatigue, self-doubt will derail you from your most brilliant ideas. And believe me, when I coach physicians and they start spark that creativity and sharing all these amazing ideas they have, and they can create actually their own companies through it, it just amazes me every time. Now, let's talk about the challenge that are specific for healthcare teams. Communication barriers. There is clearly sometimes, unfortunately, a misalignment between the leader teams, and there is a lot of inefficiencies and conflict. And we're going to talk a little bit of and touch base on communication and how you can convey your messages in a way that people not only see or hear what you're saying, but feel what you're conveying in that message. We mentioned high stakes because sometimes we need to change rapidly, right? There is a rapid decision making and under pressure, and that sometimes affects collaboration, and building trust that sometimes we feel is a giving is necessary, because when you build a culture of trust and you feel that the decision you're making is the best, although we don't have that much time to analyze it because of the nature of the decision and the specific time that is happening, that create at least more engagement from your team to be able to implement some of those changes. Unfortunately, we have a significant turnover and issues with retention. And I think, again, going back to disengagement, going back to lack of trust, all those sort of things affects, that's the lack of sense of belonging among teams, that they don't feel that they're part of something bigger. And we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose, right? The sharing vision of what you're doing, why you're building this team, and why you're heading towards. That's necessary for you to be so clear, but able to convey that message in a way that not only people believe it, so embrace it in a way that they're just part of something larger than just themselves. And and the reality is that when you go over stats, like I was recently reading this survey where three of five physicians, three of five physicians of they were trying or looking at changing jobs within the next 2 years. And that's the status quo. That's the reality. So how you can make them stay, right? How you can build a sustainable team that is fully engaged and highly performant. That's ultimately what you want. And what I see when I'm coaching small teams and individuals is that I don't see they're truly exploring possibilities and also kind of the opportunities that they have for growth and improve their performances. Um, this is the foundation of positive intelligence. On the left side, you have your saboteur brain driven by the limbic system or typical fight or flight response. I need to add the modern amygdala. The third response is the freeze response. And I see a lot of physicians and sometimes entrepreneurs that are not taking action toward the things that they need to do and matter the most for themselves, for their team, and for their businesses. It will trigger fear, stress, and negative emotion and lead what is a narrow decision making process that is just reactive. So what you want instead is get to the right side, the sage brain that engage the prefrontal cortex and empathy circuitry. This is more we're talking about calm, creativity, and clear-headed focus, and that will help you allow or turn challenges into opportunities. At the key of mental fitness and positive intelligence is about how you can rewire your brain through intentional practices that can help you move from saboteur to sage brain in a consistent way, at demand, or I would say at command, when you decide to use it or you need it the most. Now, this is very, very important for anyone that is interested in exploring more this concept, because change is possible. It just requires consistent practice for hopefully a lifetime of change, but at the very least, for a short period of time, you can accomplish significant change in just something around 6 to 7 weeks of consistent practice. And again, this is not about understanding the concept, but rather than implementing all these concepts. You can measure the positive intelligence of your team. You can do it individually and get an average of the entire team. And what you see to the right is called the uh, positive intelligence vortex. At the top, you see those that are at the top of the positive intelligence score, and at the bottom, the one with the lowest. And you see, the interesting is that there is good research data that at the highest, you see the high performance, and at the lowest, the low performance team. There is a good correlation between the score and how good or bad your team will perform. And there are two additional concepts here. The one that is important is the fact that 75 is the golden number. You want your team to be as close or hopefully above 75. And the second concept is that the PQ score of the team leader has a heavy weight into the total score of the team. In other words, if you have a team leader with a very low score, it will definitely drag down the total score of the team and therefore the performance of the team. And that's because of the ripple effect, that emotional contagion that becomes or influence group behaviors. So this is an invitation for a reflection of where you are as an individual, and this is easily measured at the Positive Intelligence website. You can do the free test in our website. There is links that you can get to it, and you can measure what is your team score. And you have all of your team members also taking this score and see where you are at with them. And therefore, all the changes that moving forward I will be sharing with you, it will apply the urgency and necessity based upon where you are in the spectrum of the mental fitness and performance of your team. The idea here is that as you strengthen your sage brain for you as the team leader and your team, they will shift from reactive to proactive collaboration, and they will improve performance. And more important, because you want to make this sustainable, it improves their emotional well being, their sense of purpose and belonging. How can you do that though? So that's why we're going to share the four pillars of high performance teams using the example of the positive intelligence framework to help your team to thrive. So there are four main pillars that will help you on this task. The first one is psychological safety. Your team will perform best when your members feel that they can share their ideas without fear or judgment, right? Open dialogue, celebrate diverse perspectives. Number two is mental fitness. This is more actionable. You need to give your team the tools to improve their individual mental fitness. Therefore, they can go from saboteur to sage and stay resilient. And all this practice, some of which you can find some resources on our website, you can implement not only for you, as I said, in your team meetings, in your team huddles, and even in your encourage your own team members to implement it at their own pace. Number three will be purpose alignment. And you're going to see how important when we're coaching entrepreneurs, the first we do is to clarify what is their purpose, what is their vision for the future of their team, of their company, of their businesses. And finally, consistent communication. You need to be not only as clear as possible, but as intense as possible. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that when we get to that point. Because the reality is, we usually focus on relating the concept, the strategy, but we don't relate in a way that people will kind of get to a sense of engaging on the news that you're conveying to them. And that's kind of what you want to get to. When we think about psychological safety, you want a space when ideas will thrive, right? They want to produce breakthrough ideas. And I think that those that are in entrepreneurship most definitely are the ones that they need the most to be able to accomplish this, because you want to have this out of the box thinking approach, and you want your team to be at the best possible mindset to produce the best results of what you're seeking or need. Brené Brown, on her book, Daring Greatly, mentioned how vulnerability is not a sign of weakness; it's actually a sign of strength. And unfortunately, the status quo is actually the opposite, right? So we don't talk about necessarily what we're going through. And having a check-in round when you have a team huddle so people can share, this is not about making a list of things that are work or not, or working or not. Or eventually, you might need that, but for now, we're just talking about having an open conversation about the specific struggles that you or your team might be having. So one of the ways I've been able to change and shift this perspective has been by doing a short PQ practice before I'm doing a team huddle. And it's very simple. You don't have to do it. You can listen to it. It has to be simple as 30 seconds or 1 minute or two. And you just want your team to get to the best possible state before you start to tackle any of the problems. And I'm going to show with you the sage perspective, how you can implement in a stepwise fashion, but having that opportunity, that open conversation in the beginning is crucial because that will set the tone for the remaining of the meeting. Oftentimes we just go straight to the agenda, we just go straight to what needs to be done without even sharing ideas of how, what is the conditions for that idea to flourish, but also at the same time, what is the sense of purpose of why we're implementing it in the first place. The second thing is, and two concepts I will share here that are often ignored, particularly I see a lot in healthcare, and that's number one, celebrate the macro wins. I'm all for accountability, but oftentimes we ignore the accomplishment, even if this is a small thing. Sometimes I was coaching a small team. This is a healthcare team, and they're leading a digital health company, a telemedicine company, and we were just talking about even the smile of a patient, a thanks from the patient. Take it, celebrate it, write it down, and we kind of create a dashboard of macro wins that, interesting, lift up the morale of the entire team. The second thing about failures, right? Not everything we do will work, right? It's just a matter of how we can use that as a feedback and as a blueprint for the changes that needs to be made to make things better. Um, how we can reframe failures. I'm not talking about ignoring them, but how you can rephrase them into lessons learned. And that reframe, very simple but very powerful, can drastically change the tone of how you're approaching this specific challenge. Now, let's talk about the leaders, right? And I've been leading teams when I was in corporate as a hospitalist, medical director, chief of medicine, regional medical director. And I've been in so many meetings, corporate meetings, hospitalistic meetings, and so on and so forth. This is something that it rarely happens. A leader admitting that he might have made a mistake. And there is power on it to be able to set an example, right, on how open you can be and embrace those mistakes and failures and use it. Again, use it because you need that feedback to make the change that are necessary to make things to work better. And and that's the way I want you to see it. Because if you don't see it that way, you just see it as a sign of weakness. And there's a lot of ego in healthcare. I get that, right? But it's so important, so fundamental to be able to do all of these things, the check-ins, the reframing of the failures, the micro wins, and the admit mistakes. That's the ultimate earn trust through accountability framework that I can share with you today. Because what you want is what I describe as the triple purpose team. The ultimate win is going to be when each member of your team, you see on the right, they are inspired of how there is a lasting positive impact on themselves. There is this self-realization, self-actualization, the ultimate belonging to, right? By being here, I'm flourishing, I'm growing. The second component of the triple purpose is that you are inspired, your team, any member of your team is inspired and committed to help each other in a meaningful and lasting ways. And finally, this is when it grows and this is expandable from the individual to all the team helping each other, right? All together to the ultimate massive growth when you get to that point that those individuals see clear and they're inspired about the positive impact that they are leading, they're causing with their products, with their company to outside of the team, to your clients or the world in general, right? Now, that's the goal. But the reality is, you see what you're coming from, because that's what I see the most. Look to the left, the low triple purpose team. This is just a job. I'm just focused on me, getting through the day and move on. And I'm just getting the task done. Leave me alone, right? How I can shift from the left to the right is precisely the challenge of any leader, right? And being able to bend the rules, change the status quo is required if you truly want to embrace all these changes and get your team to the next step. Now, of course, you want your team to be nurtured, right? You want your team to not be on a saboteur driven fear, but rather embrace all the such powers of empathy and curiosity. Because the reality is, if they are in the saboteur driven fear, you're going to stay on the left side of the table I just showed. And it's going to be very hard to move the needle toward the right side. Now, we believe that trust is a given, and that is far from true, because trust is the highest form of human motivation, and it brings out the very best in people. Building trust among teams is so crucial and often ignored. As I said, we just get to the strategies, we just get straight to the tactics without building this deep root connection and relationship that can massively change the performance of your team. Now, how can you do that? How can you get your team to build their own mental fitness, to improve the positive intelligence scores, to build that resilience and get to this sage perspective? Few things that you can do, and at the bottom you see that short video you can find for on my website, and check it out and use it. PQ reps, simple exercise that can help you shift from the left to the right. And I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about our mental fitness program based on positive intelligence, because you can learn most of these tools and techniques. This is a good example that you can start trying and using, um, and replicate and implement as well. Um, because the more you practice, and we're talking about small practices, small mental breaks of very short period of time that you can give through the remaining of the day or as needed. Like for me, I use it before any high stake meeting, for example. What is the PQ connection, right? As you practice as you go through this mental fitness journey, as you build more self-awareness, as you get this level of self-command, when you're able to command your mind to focus, to build this laser focus on the things that matter the most, the problems becomes easier to at least come up with potential viable implementable solution. And that's precisely what you want to do, because you're going to be facing challenges every day no matter where you are. And remember, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf it. And that's precisely, if you think on those terms, that's kind of what you're learning. Interesting, like we talk about building resilience, increasing creativity, but ultimately what you're navigating is a framework that can consistently help you navigate all the challenge that you're having with your career, with your business, or by leading your teams in a consistent and a sustainable way that you can implement in a short period of time, but the impact and the change is long lasting. The five sage powers, when you get to this point of being in a sage perspective where you can see every outcome or circumstance turn into a gift, an opportunity, you go through these five steps, right? You can see it as a steps in order, but it really doesn't have to be the case. First, you need to empathize with you first, but definitely with your team and even with the circumstances around you. You want to get to a point of explore. You are a fascinated anthropology. And I love to implement that when I'm coaching founders or entrepreneurs that have their own businesses and they're going through specific challenges. The first thing we want is to get very deep, very granular about what this problem is about. Try to remove the facts from the thoughts and the feelings, right? That's crucial because oftentimes we just focus on the thoughts, on the feeling, how this is affecting me, and rather than just focus on the reality of what is truly behind this problem. And that will help you build the best perspective to come up with ideas and brainstorm ideas that can change it. And that's when we get to the point of innovate, right? When you're in team meetings, instead of but and no, you use the yes and, right? You brainstorm multiple ideas. And one of the exercises I love the most is forget about money, forget about timeline, just come up with at least 10 ways that you can fix this problem or how you can use this to be one of the best things that ever happened for your business. And just brainstorming. And oftentimes, what I see when you analyze those results, oftentimes I can see clearly the first few things are not actionable, are not implementable. But as you brainstorm more, you get more deep into your sage perspective, you start seeing some ideas that could potentially be feasible to implement. And that's ultimately what you want. Because from that perspective of brainstorming ideas and possibilities is when you get to the point of navigate. And it's like, okay, how I can get this idea, right? And see if this idea correlates with my long-term game plan, my vision, right? And my purpose. And depending on that, alignment of this idea and your values and purpose, you get to the point of activate, which is just action. You are start playing, setting the goals for what the actions that needs to be taken for you to come up with solution to that specific challenge that you're going through. Conceptually, it makes sense, but it's nicer when you see it in action, when you're implementing it with teams. As I was mentioning, trust is earned, it's not a given. And we want a team that is high in trust. They acknowledge their shortcomings, they admit the individual mistake and failures, and they hold themselves accountable. And we assume positive intention with each other rather than ambiguity or conflict. Now, so what happened is, unfortunately, what we see more is what is on the left, right? We just put that facade of perfection, right? We're all perfect. Nobody make any mistakes. We don't hold ourselves accountable, right? And if we do, we don't admit our own mistakes or failure. We try to blame others. So finally, we are suspicious of what each other team member intentions are. And that's the recipe, definitely, for low performance, for hostility among your team. And that's another framework. You want to get to the earn trust side of things. And that will get your team to the next level of performance. And once again, the more you practice on your mental fitness journey, you improve your mental fitness, you improve your positive intelligence, you implement all these changes, you are able to share that vision, that where you want your team to go to. Now, we talk about how communication matters, right? So because miscommunication oftentimes is at the root of breaking down collaboration, right? And well, first will help you build trust, right? That is necessary, strengthen relationship and aligns team goals. From active listening to feedback loops to more important has a clarity and purpose. And I was telling you that there are two ways of conveying a message. You have the data channel and you have the PQ channel. The data channel is all about the fact. It's all about the data, right? So what is the goal for the team, right? And what are the targets, etc. The PQ is more about the emotionality and the energy that you use to convey that message. And people can tell, people can note it, right? If you're coming from a place of for a saboteur mode of negativity, stress, discomfort, anxiety, there's so much friction on that message you're conveying that people just don't engage. But among my career as a leader, and I've been in some multiple meetings, I can tell you the most successful leaders that I have seen, those are those that are able to master the art of combining both, or being able to convey that data channel, that message that needs to be said, but in a way that is conveying in a cocoon, so to speak, of transformation, so to speak, through massive, intense emotionality, interest, purpose, passion, and ultimately high energy. Because if you all go drain, people will note it, your team will see it. And even if they want to execute your vision, they still might not be able to fully engage on it. And going back to the idea of check-ins, you see, and you see that some of these techniques repeat itself, right? How you can check in, in a round table and see where everybody's mindset is at. How can I use more intent versus impact practice where you use reflective statements like what I heard is this to confirm there is alignment between what you're saying, what you need from them, and what they're seeking as well. And finally, and more important, I will say, is get to this point of emotional awareness, right? Where emotion might be influencing the tone or the message. And that's what I like about life coaching because when you separate, we have 60,000 thoughts a day that are driving most of our emotional state. And this is just reaction to the facts that are around ourselves, around us, or affecting us in some way or the other. And when you separate both, there is a power just of seeing the difference on what your mind is telling you, what reality is really. And ultimately, the ultimate shift is the fact that there is at least four or more ways or different perspective to approach one single problem. In fact, I would say the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of where you want to focus on. Because you see, saboteur can hijack your communication and turning those discussion into defensiveness and make it unproductive instead of keeping it in the sage power of curiosity, empathy, and constructive dialogue. Remember that the art of communication is the language of leadership. This is something you can practice, you can role play. We have created, as part of our positive mental fitness program, we have created a chatbot that you can actually interact with through voice mode, where you can actually have a conversation, even a role playing, if you're not give it a try and a practice and receive feedback and how your performance is. I love role playing. I have used it with my own individual when I was doing one-to-one coaching. During a team brainstorming session, the judge will arise, and you can just try to focus on what can we value instead of focus on the negativity or these ideas are not going to work, etc. What value can we find here? One of the when we were talking about innovate, we usually like this idea of brainstorming at least 10 potential solutions for this problem if money or time was not a constraint, and just unlock your brain and come up with those 10 ideas, and you will be surprised that you start seeing patterns of things that you go from not implementable, and you can filter these through any specific framework you want. One of the things that I like is, of course, high impact, low cost. When you analyze those 10 ideas, what is the one that might be the most impactful one with the less amount of cost or effort to implement it, right? So I love that framework. It's very simple and yet very powerful. But you will see, maybe of those 10 ideas that you're brainstorming when you're coming up with solutions, if time or money was not a constraint, you will find that at least one or two are highly impactful and potentially implementable for your team. Finally, aligning, and I leave it at last, although I will say that this is the first one that you should be able to analyze and reflect. And it takes time and it's not a given, you know. Define your individual values and the values of your company. Define your also your company values and vision, and you see where you stand. And I love this, I like to have funders analyzing their own values and vision and the ones for their company. And why I do that, because the problem, there are two things here, right? The reality is you're looking at alignment, you're looking at integration, you're not looking at friction, or even worse, when they're opposite to each other, right? So, and you also want to see the practicality of that idea, of the value and vision, right? So, what the matter the most, and you correlate with what your vision for the future of your company is and for yourself. And that helps you build that level of awareness, alignment, or misalignment. Because the worst that can happen is you build this company, uh, which is amazing, but then it conflicts with your own personal values and your vision for yourself. And then you are in this predicament that you feel trapped, right? Because you don't know what to do. And sometimes that happens in your career as well. You build this amazing career, you're making a lot of money as a specialty or whatever the case might be, and then you find yourself that you're just not enjoying your life because you never stop to reflect what are the core of your values and visions as well. And then you realize there is a lot of friction and misalignment. And that leads you to with cognitive dissonance, which is the ultimate recipe, by the way, for burnout. Sometimes we just focus on what we're overdoing in the sense of work, on the sense of number of patients, in the sense of number of tasks and goals. But at the same time, we often ignore that sometimes we're not just spending time on the things that matter the most and the ones that will help you and give you more passion and reignite the other things that you want to do for your career and your business. A unified purpose aligns action, and there has been data that teams with a shared purpose are 50% more likely to achieve their goals. You want that. You want to have a clear definition and alignment of your vision so everybody understand and connect hopefully with it and share it. There's a value. You define the values again for your company, and it takes time, it takes work, but it doesn't take that long, but it's crucial, necessary. I would say this is the pillar of a sustainable startup when you start by defining all these things. And finally, the impact awareness, right? What are you trying to accomplish, for this teamwork, this team effort, how is going to align with the larger goal? And that's what is important, because that's the recipe for engagement when you are able to get all this team on board. Because this is very actionable. Leaders must clarify their vision, that is the what you're doing things, and the purpose, which is the why you are doing things. Because what leads to is going to be that will help to empower your teams, who is the who's, that will execute it with the how. You see that the how you're going to do things, the tactics, the strategies, the goals, the task for the weeks, etc., comes last. You cannot bypass the what, the why, and evidently the who's, which is more about team assignment, right? And understanding that you want to have the right people on your team. And not only that, you want the right people on your team. And for those individual, the member of your team, you want them to be performing on their best, the tasks that they can actually perform best. And mutual accountability is crucial, right? Again, we want to be on the right side. Our team, we hold each other accountable. In our team, we hold each other accountable for how we conduct ourselves, including negative behavior, constructive feedback. We welcome peer accountability. It's a gift to help each person's grow. And the team members show as much passion and concern for each other's achievement as their own. This is what you're aiming for. This is what you want on a team that is going to be exploding on productivity. The flip side, look at the left side, right? You expect the team leader to be the one holding members accountable. We expect the team leader to be the one holding members accountable for how they conduct themselves. We're suspicious of peer accountability. And we're primarily concerned about their own results, not each other's. And unfortunately, what I see the most is what's being described on the left box rather than the right. Gratitude, why we ignore something that is so powerful. As you share your vision, your purpose, your values, you are start aligning all this with your team. Make a routine to have a gratitude practice, what you guys are coming from, what you guys have accomplished to this point. There are multiple ways you can do that. Team chartered exercise, role mapping. I love that one. And finally, as I was mentioned before, celebrating, even if this is micro wins. Because at the end, the ultimate success of your team and your company is going to be a combination of focus. And we already talked about how mental fitness can get you to this point of peak performance and laser focus, and wisdom and clarity of what mattered the most. Two, engagement, which is more and more like a shared vision and passion of your entire team. And finally, how you're going to execute. And it's important because when you talk about execution, we're talking about the how, but it's so important to be doing the right things for the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And you see, all these are connected. And oftentimes we start with the last without even thinking where we're coming from. We're just reacting to whatever changes are happening around us. And we are in that reactive mode, and an endless reactive mode that usually your team will never grow when you are in that mindset. I'm going to share just this. We talk about three gift techniques, but I'm going to focus on the 10% rule for those that have not been familiar with it. And it's very simple. When you're having a challenge, or you will call it a defeat on your company, or a setback, or a roadblock, uh, you analyze with the 10% rule what of all this challenge is actually working. Is there anything, if it's a tiny bit of it, that we will come up to the conclusion that was actually working? Of course, the overall outcome is still not being achieved, but do you have that 10% small thing that was actually working? And when you focus on what is working, you kind of change the perspective, right? From the empty to the full glass of water, right? So, and you can elaborate from there into what things I can use, using this as an example of what is working, and implement more of those and scale those into a more broad strategy of what needs to be done to help us, with this struggle that we're facing. Because saboteurs will thrive with alignment, and mental fitness will help with clarity and purpose by fostering creativity and resilience, as we've been discussing. And finally, it's okay. Challenges is okay. Conflict. How we can turn your team into a healthy conflict. When we face conflict as a team, we embrace conflict as a creative tension. We feel safe and we challenge each other. We air all conflicts with each other inside their team. And in debate or conflict, we attack the problem, not the person. And that's what I like to practice, detachment. When I'm in a team meeting, this is the problem. The problem is not about the person, it's about how we tackle this problem to make the best decision possible for the team, but more important, for the overall goal of our company. And that's filtered through the vision and values of it. Because usually, again, going back to healthy conflict, we usually were in the left side. We just see conflict as a bad thing, right? It erodes trust. We're just challenging each other ideas, and it will lead to resentment and even revenge. We gossip regarding our conflicts, and we see debate as an attack between person. And this is crucial because conflict, debate, is necessary and oftentimes seen as a negative connotation. So, to recap, we have psychological safety, how you can create a space where trust and growth flourish, effective communication. We talk about the PQ channel and the data channel. You want to combine both when you're leading your teams, and we empower collaboration and share purpose. So, why mental fitness matter? Because PQ practice are the foundation of mastering all these pillars and strengthening sage quality to overcome challenge, create high performing teams. And I have seen it. I have witnessed those changes, and I feel so grateful of being part of those changes and a driver or catalyst of those changes as well. Remember that change takes time. You know, when you talk about the habit installation protocol of change, a new habit requires at least 66 days. You go from a process of destruction, breaking the old habits, installation, adjusting the new one, and integration when you get to make it more like automatic new behavior, the healthy one, the ones you want for you or your team. So that's why remember that the best way to predict the future is to create it. But we would love for you to connect with us at A Doctor's Journey and check our website at doctorsjourney.com. But going back to the breakdown of changes, you know, the protocol of change of 66 days, we're launching our mental fitness program for physician and healthcare innovators that want to improve their mental fitness. And in just as short as 7 weeks, we have a research backup process that can improve your team performance by improving the team leader performance. We have done it also as well in small teams with really good results. And if you are curious about that, you can check out our website. But there are multiple different resources that we have available as part of this actionable transformational driven program that we'll be happy to share. We've been working and designing and tailor it in a way that often a tons of value and deliver massive change in the most shorter period of time for the business people that I work with, right? We're all entrepreneurs, we're healthcare innovators, we're practicing physicians, and we have very limited amount of time. But believe me, I will put these blindly in the 20% buckets that can cause 80% of your results on your team, on your on your life as well, career and professional like. If you're interested also on getting this program into small teams, we have a separate offering you just reach out to us and you can check all of our information at our website. And we also have a podcast where we invite physician and healthcare innovators to share their journey. And I appreciate all of you that were able to see it now or at your available time later on. I'm always looking at growing our network and our connection and our collaboration. We're going through a massive steps of partnership as our brand is growing and we're building more partnership. And I'm very excited about so much innovation happening around us, my company, but around healthcare in general. And I'm very optimistic about the future of our healthcare system. So if you guys have any additional questions, just feel free to reach out. We're very active on our social media channels, specifically on LinkedIn. Um, and we're going to share the recording at a later time, but very grateful to have you here. Out of respect for your time, we're going to wrap it up and we're always going to be committed for a massive change. And together, we're going to be shaping the future of a resilient and high performing team. Thank you so much.